how do you take out your wigs? How do you
Yeah.
take out your quick wigs and stuff like that? And they say, oh, when it's ready, I just pull it up. Oh, I get some oil. And I'm just like, where on the bottle of oil or where on the bottle of baby oil does it say this is wig remover? I had my own office. They gave me a laptop, and I don't know why they did that because I was creating my website on them people computer. I was printing stuff out, So
Take a deep breath with me and let it out. I want to thank I want to thank you for joining us today on the podcast Mama Never Told Me. Today we're welcoming Dezaree Lusk, LCSW, MBA, and COO of Divine Beauty Bar and Hair Loss Institute. From styling hair in high school cosmetology class to directing Houston's second largest psychiatry facility, Dezaree threads beauty, mental health advocacy, and legacy into one braid. Her Free Wigs for Veterans program began as a tribute to her grandfather. Now it's a nationwide permission slip for healing. If you've ever wondered whether purpose can look like community service and fierce entrepreneurship at the same time, stay close. Desiree, when you first picked up a pair of shears in high school, what did success look like in your mind?
So thank you so much for that question. Before we get started, I want to say thank you so much to Mr. Eric and Mrs. Erica for inviting me onto this show. This is so amazing, and I definitely think that this is. A great podcast that you're doing because there's so many things, no matter how old, a lady is. There's so many different things that we go through at different stages in our life. So I'm very grateful to be here today. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
When I first picked up a pair of shears, so funny thing is, so my granddaddy was a Korean War veteran. He passed from leukemia. And I had aunts and cousins in my family that had their own salon. So my granddad asked me one day, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I was like, "Oh, well, I think I want to do hair." And he said, "Baby, find something else to do." And I was like, "What?" Like, one of your daughters does hair. I have a Aunt Lisa that does hair and a cousin Wendy that well, they're sisters. You know how we do
Right.
sometimes in the community.
Yes.
Cousin here ain't here, but honestly, they're both my cousins, and they're sisters. So cousin Lisa, she has her own salon, and cousin Wendy is an esthetician. So when he said find something else to do, I was very much caught off guard, and I carried that with me for a long time. I'm like, why would he tell me to? Why would he tell me that? But you don't. Back in the day, you don't really question grown folks.
Mm-mm.
You just say okay and move on.
Right.
But as I got older, it was something that I still had a calling for. And when I realized that my high school offered it, I said, well, this would be perfect because I can get my cosmetology license, graduate from high school, and then go to college without having to go from college to cosmetology, then
Right.
to college. So it truly was a blessing the way that thing worked out for me. And I will say, I took what he said as find a better way to do it. So I
Right.
took it as he didn't mean find something else to do. He just find a better way to do it. And that's so true. So I started out, I was doing braids, I was doing sew-ins, I was doing like so many things. All through college, I used to have a special. You can get braids and you can get your nails done. Okay. But
Doing it all.
yes, I was jack of all trades and running myself into the ground. But as I got older and I became a social, so by degree, I'm a licensed clinical social worker. And so, I realized my passion is to still help people.
Right.
So, like I said, my granddad passed from leukemia, and I said, you know what? I want to start making wigs for people with hair loss. And as I got more into the research, I learned that it's called a cranial prosthesis. So it's
Yeah.
a little bit different than your everyday wig. There's certain material in there for people who have sensitive scalps. And so I started, from about 2016 to 2018, I was researching a lot. I was not profitable at all. Um,
Right.
doing a lot of research trying to figure out how to build the insurance company, that whole scope of things. And then one day, a veteran from Chicago sent me an email, and it was her and her two daughters. They had been purchasing wigs off of my website. And she
Okay.
said that, hey, I'm a veteran and the VA pays for this thing. And I was just like, oh my God. Like, it definitely was a divine connection because
Yes, I was about to say a
I was helping
godsend.
people with cancer and insurance. However, I still wanted to help the veteran community and, in honor of my grandfather. So when she
Yes.
reached out to me, it just literally connected all the dots. And I was able to get set up. Even though I was living in Texas, my first VA was the Chicago,
Okay.
Hines, Illinois VA. So now I am blessed to say that I work with about half of the United States. I work with over 25 states servicing the veteran community and providing not only wigs for veterans, but also mastectomy bras and breast prosthetics as well.
Oh, well, see, thank you. I did not know that, especially me. I'm a disabled veteran, a 100% disabled veteran, and I don't have it on now, but I've also got some of your cranial prosthesis.
Yes, ma'am.
But I thank you. I thank you. I thank your grandfather, and I love the way that you tied everything, that you said, I'm going to take it as this,
Right,
find a different way instead of not doing it, you
right.
know. But my thing is, cosmetology and clinical social work sounds like separate lanes. Where did they first overlap for you?
It's in the eye of the beholder. And so, a lot of things, sometimes doesn't always sound like it goes together. But the way I took it as, when I'm working in a hospital, I'm the first person to do their assessments. I'm connecting them to resources, different things like that. And as a hairstylist, as a beautician, when
Yes.
someone sit in your chair, they open up to you.
Yes.
So they tell you everything. And I like to point them in the right direction. So recently I had a veteran, and as you know, when time permits, I do go to the veterans home to fit them and put the wig on them and different things like that. So she had her son and she wasn't able to come in to our salon. And I said, hey, no worries, I'll come to you. And so when I got there, her son is autistic. And so did her hair and everything like that. And then this past weekend, I was at the San Antonio's Southwest Region Veteran Summit that they had, a 2-day event that they had in San Antonio, getting more veteran women
Right.
enrolled into VA healthcare. And my booth was literally next to this lady that's a nonprofit, and she does childcare. She also helped with like any type of behavioral issues that a child may be having. And so, yeah, I was able to get her contact information and shot it right over to the veteran that I was working with in Houston. So I still see it as a form of social work.
Mhm.
Um, and so I call it my own private practice.
There
So
you go.
I'm doing cosmetology and social work my way. So
Are you going to be able to come down to like Corpus Christi or Harlingen base to help some of the women there like you did in Houston and San Antonio?
yeah, so I have a few veterans that are in Corpus Christi. One of my plans was to reach out to the VA to see if there's any like events coming up so that I can like set up a table and things like that. Because a lot of VAs have typically have like a breast cancer event,
Yes.
or they may have like a resource kind of event in the area. So I was definitely going to see if anything like that is coming up so I can get down there and share with more veterans our services.
And I'm going to be putting this out, and I've also spread the word,
Thank
about your
you.
services as well. I thank you for that. Your free wigs for veterans programs, it honors your father. How does that carrying his story guide your daily decisions?
Yeah, well, you know what? It's one of it, if I'm being honest, it's a little bit selfish of me, right? Because the way everything happened with my grandfather, he didn't let us know that he was that he had was diagnosed with leukemia.
Oh.
And so I used to go to the VA, to the Dallas VA with him all the time and eat the popcorn and things like
Yes.
that. But I was young, so this happened between like right when I was entering into middle school, and
Hmm.
so and my mom very much involved in her parents' care and things like that. However, me as a social worker, I know that if a patient does not sign a release of information form,
Yep.
then the doctors and the nurses cannot call and break confidentiality.
Correct.
So it's very hard being a family member and then being on the other side of being a social worker and not being able to release confidentiality. But as a family member, feeling like, why didn't you guys call us? You see us up here at the hospital. You know we're concerned with his care. Why wouldn't you let us know? But obviously there's pros and cons of the
Right.
HIPAA law. And so, when I started working with individuals with cancer or with medical conditions, I felt like it was me kind of having. And oh my God, it's been since 2006. It's been like 20 years.
Really.
I don't want to get to crying. But, it just felt like me having that closure and better understanding what he may have been experiencing and what he kept silent about.
Right.
So I'm like, people, tell your family members what y'all have going on. But yeah, so that's
Yeah.
why I said I feel like it's a little bit selfish of me because when I do get to work with the veterans and not just veterans, anyone that come across my path, it is like closure for me. So
Good. Well, thank you. You see, a lot of hair loss impacts identity every day. What quiet
yeah.
grief shows up in your chair, and how do you meet it?
Yeah, so like one of my ladies in Tennessee, she was like, I'm letting you know now, I'm not leaving the house until the wig is ready. And custom cranial prostheses take a little bit longer than your everyday order online and then set your doorstep the next day. We have to take your measurements. Sometimes we do a mold, just different things like that. And so the units can take anywhere from 30 to 45 days.
Right.
I've even seen them take up to 3 months, just depending on what this person is asking for in
Hmm.
her consultation. But for the most part, we do get them in within 30 days. But yeah, so I will say that women who have never taken their wig off in front of their husbands, so intimacy becomes a huge issue. Because obviously, as a woman, if you're not feeling comfortable or you're not
Right.
feeling sexy, that's going to be hard to be involved,
Right.
with your husband or with your significant other. You can be there, but you still may check out because you're wondering, oh, is he thinking about my hair? Is he look,
Yeah.
things like that. If you have younger kids, I have a 6-year-old. So if that was my story, that would be very difficult for me to go into a first grade classroom to pick up my son with no hair on my head because it's not
Hmm.
just about, I can be very, very confident, but as a 6-year-old, having to explain this to
Right.
other 6-year olds and kids can be cruel and kids can be mean. So, I mean, so many things going to work that can play a part too. Um, so many different things, even women who do not have cancer, and for veterans you do not have to have cancer in order to get the
Right.
wig. But for some women who have alopecia totalis, that's completely complete hair loss, sometimes they are classified. People assume that they have cancer.
Right.
And so then that becomes their argument, right? Everyone who's missing hair does not have cancer. So you get
Hmm.
into these little bitty, I don't want to say like wars, but everybody wants to feel like they're what they're going through matter. And it does. So there's a lot of education, there's a lot of grief, there's a lot of anxiety. So even when I do work with stylists that work with me in other cities, I always ask them before working with them, is there a private area for my clients that I'm
Right.
going to send to you? And if there's not a private area, can they be either your first client of the day or can they be your last client of the day? And then don't take pictures if they don't allow you to take pictures because a lot of women are just not comfortable sharing their hair loss. And men too. We service
Yeah.
men too. So
Oh, you do?
yes, in Houston we have a barber, and he does some beautiful man weaves, as the social media calls them. But he does some beautiful hair pieces, and then he blends them in to make them look very natural.
So that something you said resonated with me. I had a best friend, and her husband has not seen her real hair. And
Yeah.
they've been married for years now. And I'm like, how do you do that? How do you find time, or that he doesn't realize that you have a wig on, but they do. She
Mhm.
They're still living together, married, and like you said, I guess it's the intimacy issues, or the confidence. Now, she did say she had alopecia. How do you get alopecia? What exactly is that?
That's a really great question. So before anyone come to us, we always recommend that they go to a dermatologist,
Okay.
because a dermatologist can do blood work. They can figure out if there is some type of deficiency, whether that's an iron deficiency or just some kind of vitamin or vitamin D deficiency. And then once you have an idea of the cause of it,
Hmm.
then you can better treat it. Another thing that a dermatologist will do as well, um, they can also take a biopsy. They can take a biopsy of your scalp, and they can send it off to the lab so that they can take a deeper look at your hair follicles. And so something I do tell women and men that we work with, we don't like to sugarcoat it, and we just simply say, if the follicles are viable, then there's a greater opportunity that you can do certain treatments to try to to try to bring the hair back. However, if you meet with the dermatologist, and I don't want to leave out trichologists either, because they do their own
What
skin
is
and hair
that?
analysis. A trichologist, they provide, so they do have some equipment where they're able to look at a microscope scope, and also look at your hair follicles as well, to see if the follicles are still viable, or if they're hydrated, or if they're not, and they're not, if they're not alive. And so if the follicles are severely damaged and no longer viable, then that's where we get into like scarring alopecia. And then unfortunately the hair won't, it's slim to none that the hair will grow back. So I would say starting first with a medical professional, like like a dermatologist, to see what is going on.
Okay.
And
Okay.
if that's the case, they can prescribe minoxidil, they can prescribe Rogaine. There's different shampoos that they can prescribe. I even have some veterans that do injections with the like with the VA hospital. And then I have some veterans that said, look, I've tried all these things are not working, give me the wig. Or they say, hey, I'm gonna go over to Turkey and I'm gonna pay to get a hair transplant. So there's so many things, but you want to first start with a dermatologist, because you
Okay.
want to see if what are the different conditions. But to answer your question about how does hair loss start, and that's the sad part about it. Research shows that currently there's no cure for alopecia.
Oh,
But like I said, there's treatments that can be done if the hair follicles are still alive. It can be genetics.
okay.
It could be something that's hereditary. It could be stress. Stress is a huge one. Stress is a huge one. And as you know, stress can cause all other sorts of issues,
Right.
high blood pressure, different things like that. Um, Another one can be something that my friend is going through, is she's going through postpartum hair loss. After having her baby, her hair just did the
Yeah.
complete, I hate to say for lack of better terms, but her hair just did the complete fool. Like, it started changing textures, it started coming out. And then you have something that we call influvium alopecia, and that's with medications. So
Okay.
certain medications that you may take as well can cause your hair to come out.
You got menopause and,
You definitely have menopause.
mhm,
You have traction alopecia because of, different braids and tight hairstyles or wearing a. So my mom has really beautiful, long and curly hair. However, she keeps it up in the same bun all the
right.
time. So then she came to me one day like the middle of my hair is not growing, and I'm like, okay, well let's do a shampoo and conditioning deep treatment, but we have to switch up your hairstyle,
Okay.
so it can just be different things like that as well.
How would you suggest, like, to strengthen hair and to try and grow the hair back from the alopecia, to make it thicker? What type of regimen would you usually do, like, deep conditioning, no chemical perms, and things like that? What do you suggest for that?
So, I'm kind of old school when it comes to hair. So, I would say that and it depends on different types of hair, right?
Okay.
So, if we are talking about 4C or hair that, I, I, you always have to kind of be correct when you
Yes.
say these things, but because not all African Americans have, a certain type of hair and
Forces
yada
hair.
yada
Right.
yada. But if we are talking about, most African American women, my and what has helped for me over the years too is feeding my hair. So like I said, I'm old school. My mom used to do, she'll do some egg and mayonnaise and mix it
Yeah.
together, and she would do like, I remember I had ACL surgery in middle school, and so I was pretty much laying down all the time, and I was laying on the back of my head, and I started noticing that my hair was coming out. So what I started doing myself was I just would use Suffer 8. And I
Yes.
would, yeah, I would use Suffer 8. And, I still would wear, well, in middle school at that time, I wasn't wearing wigs. The big thing was quick weaves. So
Yes.
I still would wear quick weaves. I still would wear braids. And all of my friends used to ask me, Desiree, like my real hair is longer than this wig. Oh, and this is a wig, by the way, everybody.
Oh, that's cute. I like that.
Thank you. But yeah, my friends and everybody would ask me, you wear quick weaves, like how do you still have long hair? And I would tell them, I literally take care of my hair. I shampoo and condition my hair. I do sulfate on my hair. And then another thing too is I don't skip on the product. So if I'm wearing a wig or if I'm wearing a quick weave,
Mhm.
I'm not going to get in the shower and then use baby oil or conditioner to take my hair out. And I notice in a lot of my consultations, that's what I ask people, how do you take out your wigs? How do you
Yeah.
take out your quick weaves and stuff like that? And they say, "Oh, when it's ready, I just pull it up. Or I get some oil." And I'm just like, where on the bottle of oil or where on the bottle of baby oil does it say this is wig remover? So
Right.
every adhesive that you use, any type of hair glue that you use, they have the removal. They have shampoo. So I suggest, I know it gets expensive,
Yes.
but also you don't want to keep damaging your hair as well. So I definitely say whatever adhesive that you're using, you should also use that remover as well. And then take care of our hair. I know that we don't have the type of hair that we shampoo and condition it every day, but try to come up with a weekly or monthly hair care routine, even if you're doing it by yourself at home.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, I'm looking at, as I said before, you have an MBA and you got it late in the game. What did
Yeah.
that teach you about scaling purposes without losing heart?
Yeah, so the reason why I went to get my MBA is because I've been a full-time entrepreneur since 2024, and I've always
Congratulations.
said if I can do both, why not? So I'm not the type of person that say, "Oh, leave your job and go full-time and be an entrepreneur." I say do both, right? Because
Right.
there's a lot of times where my business had to fund my dream until the dream got to a point where I was able to walk away. And someone like me, I didn't just walk away. I think that if a job isn't like paying enough, then it may be a little bit easier to walk away and say I'm
Right.
going full time on this. But when you're a director at a hospital with a $10,000 bonus and making $121,000 a year, that's a
Yes.
little bit harder, to walk away from. And so I would say one of my CEOs really encouraged me to go back and get my MBA. And, he really spoke life into me. He said that times are changing. He was a Caucasian male, and he said that times are changing, that more hospitals are looking for CEOs that are not male and that are not necessarily Caucasian. And he said that
Right.
a lot of systems are getting away from the good old boy days. And he
Yes.
he really encouraged me. He was like, "You're young, so I was a I was a director before the age of 30. So I remember
Congratulations.
turning 30. Thank you. I remember turning 30 at the hospital, and we had like a little potluck and everything like that. And I remember being like, "Oh my God, I'm celebrating my, 30th birthday." And a lot of my colleagues around me are, much older.
Older, yes.
And yeah, and so, he spoke, they all at that particular hospital. Now I moved on to some other hospitals, and yeah, that's why I went full time into my own business.
Right.
But that particular hospital really spoke life into me, and they were always very encouraging for me to move on to the next level. And that was something that my CEO said, was that I can be a vice president of a hospital one day, I can be a CEO of a hospital one day. I just need to go ahead and get my MBA to go along with my experience and my social work degree. And so that's what made me go ahead and get it. And even though I'm full time in my business now, I still have aspirations of one day being in a more regional director or vice president or CEO role of a
Okay.
hospital.
Nice. Now, I see that you hold big titles, as you were just saying. What does an actual pause look like for you when the doors close and the emails stop? How do you woosah and get back to you?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. So I really love traveling. I
Okay.
travel a lot. So I really enjoy traveling. But even when I travel, I still bring my laptop with me. I will say something that helped me in business. I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but at one point in time in my life, I was engaged. And so when I was engaged, um, my fiance at that time, he had a conversation with me, and he was just like, I really don't want my wife traveling a lot, right?
Hmm.
For business or what. He was like, I really don't want you to travel a lot. And I wasn't opposed to that, because I have a vision of what type of wife and what type of mother I
Right.
want to be. And once my son got into school, I can't just go like that, and I can't
Right.
just take him with me, because now he has his own life that he's starting. And so that's when I started working with more stylists in other places. And I was very thankful for that conversation, because I can't be everywhere at one time.
Right.
And so now that I have people in position in different places, I'm able to do a lot of delegating. So obviously, that part has been hard, because everybody doesn't quite do business like you do business. And
Right.
so, with some areas, it's been trial and error, and sometimes I still travel. So a lot of times when it comes to Texas, I still would do Dallas, Corpus Christi, San Antonio, and Houston. And just depending on if the VA need me for something. So like I had a site visit in Atlanta, and so I had to go and do a 1 day trip to
Right.
Atlanta to meet with the VA. So stuff like that, he definitely understood. But as far as me being gone all the time, I was like, you know what, I definitely agree. I don't, that's not the type of wife or the mother I want to be.
Right.
I don't want to work so hard and make so much money that my son, and then my son turn around and say my mom was never around. So
Exactly.
yeah, so I would say, for me, I always say there's power in the pivot, right? So I never look at any situation like, I never like let it be a stopping block. I just look at it as like, you know what? Hey, God has me moving now in this direction, and He's gonna bless that direction. Why wouldn't He? So That's how I move.
And I appreciate that. Now, for the listener itching to pivot into something that doesn't make sense on paper, you know how you write your dreams down or how you do this. It doesn't make sense on paper. What gentle permission would you hand them right now?
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, Mrs. Erica, it has to, it has to make sense because the Bible says in Habakkuk 2 and 2 that you have to write the vision and make it plain. And the issue is, I'm happy that you said writing it down, because the issue is a lot of people don't want to write
Don't
anything
right.
down. They want to use their notes on their phone, and they want to use canva.com, and they want to do all this stuff, but that's not what the Bible said. It said write it upon tables, write it. You have to write
Yeah.
it down. So you absolutely have to write down the vision, and you have to stick to it. That's what I will say. If I would have stopped back in even in 2016, I didn't even have the money I didn't even have $300 to get an LLC because I had just graduated from grad school. So from 2016 to 2018, all I had was a DBA. And then in 2018, that's when I was in my big girl job by then. I was a social worker, a clinician one. And, at that job, I started my whole business. I had my own office. They gave me a laptop, and I don't know why they did that because I was creating my website on them people computer. I was printing stuff out. So, but yeah, I would say it's the work. I hear a lot of people goals. I hear a lot of people dreams, and a lot of people are just not putting in that work. So
That
with
work.
me traveling a lot for my clients, I'm not gonna miss an opportunity, or I'm not gonna miss a sale because we're in a whole different state.
Right.
I'm definitely going to figure out how to put the pieces together. A situation that just happened this past weekend with San Antonio, I rarely I'm not. I make mistakes. I absolutely make mistakes. But when it comes to business, for the most part, I dot my I's and I cross my T's. Well, these past few months, I just had a lot going on. So, like I said, recently separated from my fiance, and
Sorry
then on
about
top of that, thank you. I mean, I don't even know if I can say thank you. I
that.
don't say the thing, but
Everything
even
happens
with
for a reason.
yeah, everything happens for a reason. And then it was also like Father's Day, and so
Yeah.
I recently lost my dad in 2025 and stuff like that. And
Oh,
so
sorry to
yeah,
hear
so it
that.
was
I
just a
didn't
lot
know.
going on. It was a lot going
Yeah.
on. And so I just had a lot of stuff on my mind. So when the VA sent me the form to complete so that I can get my own booth, I thought I sent it back to the VA, but I actually scanned it back to Office Depot. So then I tried to reach out to the Department of Veteran Affairs, and nobody responded. And so I was just saying to myself, like, am I really gonna not show up in San Antonio? At the very least, I have my flyers. I'll pass them out at the
Right.
event. So I showed up at 6 in the morning with all my stuff, and my mom was like, "Well, just bring your own table just in case they don't have an extra table because they didn't account for you because you didn't turn the form back in." And so, I mean, I showed up on Friday, literally at 6 in the morning, and I was getting, the runaround and things like that. But yeah, I mean, I showed up. I ended up meeting this other veteran lady, and she was like, "You know what? I got you." And she walked up to them and she was like, "Hey, the organization that I'm with, they're not going to be here today, and we want to gift this young lady our table." And so that's how I was able to have a booth this
Wow.
weekend. But I was like, wait a minute, San Antonio is one of my service area. This is the Southwest region, so this whole region is my area, and there's over like 4,000 women veterans that have signed up. Am I really going to stay in Houston and cry? So it's like, are you going to cry about it, or are you going to grind about it? Are you going to get on the road, pack everything up, and say, I'm not taking no for an answer? And so that's how you have to be in business. And so one thing I will say, because I do believe that God doesn't want us to struggle, but I'm blessed that last year my business was able to bring in $400,000 a year. So thank you.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you. And but my whole thing is, if you stop now, you will never know how far you can get. And I've definitely had days where I literally cried, said I'm going to give up,
Right.
and was mad and upset at God and asking God. You know, people say you're not supposed to question God. That's not true. Even Jesus questioned God.
Right.
So you bring all your questions, to God, and then
God.
you just believe in it. And you have to keep going, and you have to keep pushing it.
Thank you. Are you still doing hair yourself? Like, are you still braiding, or do you lock up, or, do you still do it yourself? Because I know you said you're doing a position now where you can delegate.
Yeah. So I do. However, I do have a lot of clients with insurance for alopecia, and then I have a lot of veteran clients too. Um, I'm only into the hair loss in wigs. I made that change about a few years ago. So that's something I will say in business. When I first started, I said I was like the jack of all trades. And I feel like it's so much harder for your business to grow that way when you have your hand in so many different
Right.
things. I really truly believe that when you figure out your niche and your target audience, that's where you see the growth in your business. And so that's what happened to me when I started focusing only on hair loss and only on cranial prostheses. That's when I noticed the shift in my business, because now I have an identity. Now I have a brand, and now every time someone see me, they're like, "Oh, that's the wig lady for veterans." Or anybody who know a veteran, they're like, "Oh, you should call Desiree. She does stuff for women veterans." You know what I mean? Not now, that would be different if I did so many things and people wouldn't know
Right.
what to call me for. So I really do believe that, obviously, starting out in business, and when there's not a lot of capital, you want to do everything, because obviously you want to make business. The number one definition of a business is making money.
Right.
So I mean, so with that being said, I will, if somebody reach out to me, and if I'm in Houston, then yeah, definitely they can come to the salon. They can get service. I do have a link on divinebeautybar.com where people can book appointments. But for the most part, I'm more so geared towards wig installations.
Now, is it just for melanated women or people of color, or can anybody get the cranial prosthesis?
Yeah, anyone with hair loss. So I actually have a lot of other races in some other areas. So Houston, I get a few Latinos or a few Caucasian women, but majority I get African American women. And then I work with the VA in Ohio, and I also work with the VA in Connecticut, as well as, it was one that was on the tip of my tongue. Even San Antonio, I get a lot of Latino women from San Antonio as well. And one thing I will say, when you're going through something traumatic in your life, whether it's hair loss or whether it's something else, I mean, race goes out the door. You just won't help. You know what I
Right.
mean? And so I have different manufacturers and suppliers that has different type of hair, like European hair, or like we even have cultural wigs, which is Jewish wigs. And then I have your Brazilian, Malaysian,
Right.
Cambodian, things like that. So that's why the consultation is so important. So that way you can match as best as possible with what the person is wanting.
All right. Well, I am, like I said, I am super, super honored and proud to call you my friend and to have met you. And, you came down to my house. You and your son came to my house in Corpus. And that just blew me out of the water because I was
And I
like,
had my son with me
no way.
too.
Yes. I was like, no way she's coming from Houston. And then we got something to eat and everything. And your personality, and you're so bubbly. And I can see, why and how you're going to continue to flourish and
Thank
thrive.
you.
Not only that you have God first in your life, it's your personality, and you have the right mind to it, like your grandfather said. Don't, do it. Do
Yeah.
something different. Do it in a different way, you
Yeah.
know. Again, I really appreciate you for taking this time out. Um, Any last words for us?
Like I said, just thank you. And they were cooking. Y'all were cooking down over there. I'm talking about, yeah, that food was good. Okay.
Yeah,
It was worth the trip, okay? But yeah,
exactly.
I just want to say, thank you so much. Thank you for putting this together because more people need to hear. Because trust me, even my mom is my biggest supporter. She would, if I would have told her that I needed her in Corpus Christi that day, she would have been down there. Yeah, my mom, that's my right hand. And yeah, but she was the first person to tell me, girl, ain't nobody gonna buy them high A wigs. You know what I'm saying? So, had I listened to my
It's always
mom.
a family member, isn't it?
Yeah, which is very hard because I do take my mom's opinion like to heart. I hate any
Yeah.
time in my life where I have to do something different than what she's suggesting. But she always say, "That's right. I don't know. Your generation is different. If you did the research and you see the numbers and this is a need in that community, then go for it. Whatever you need me to do, I'll be there. But I'm just saying, I don't know if anybody gonna buy them high. So
She's like, I'm not saying, but I'm just saying.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I just say, when you know what you know, definitely do the research because it has, like you said, it has to make sense on paper. So
Yeah.
you have to do some type of research to know that this is a good field to go into. And you know what? If it doesn't work out, that's okay because there's power in a pivot. I'm sure it's something you learned during that time period that can help you be a better business owner in your next walk of life. And not everybody wants to be a great business owner, but there's some things that and I'll leave y'all with these points. There's some things that I did before I was able to get my dream car and before I was able to, make so much in revenue and, work all over the United States. Um I started taking care of what I had, right?
Yes.
So there was something in me that said, you know what? Before God can bless me with my dream car, He has to be able to bless me. I have to show Him that I'm able to take care of the current blessing that He gave me. So I started cleaning my car more. I started taking it to the car wash. I
Right.
started vacuuming more. I stopped eating so much. If I did eat in my car, I made sure I took the trash out. That same day. And then before I was able to start, what was I getting ready to say? Oh, before I moved into like the apartment that I wanted to move in, I took care of what I had right then and there, and I started praying, saying, God, help me be a better mother, help me be um a better daughter, a better sister, a better, fiance or wife, when that
Yeah.
was going on. Uh,
You were
but yeah,
speaking it
I
into
just
existence. You were naming it and claiming it, asking it.
yeah, yeah. Every year I do a vision board and I really work towards, those goals. So, and I'm not the best at when I'm in town, I definitely try to go to church. And I do try to read my Bible. I don't read it every day, but I do try to, study the word and show myself approved. So,
Yes. And I like that. And it's a good thing you said like a vision board. That's
mhm,
again, you like you said, you have to write it down. You have to see it.
you
That way
do.
it's not, it can be in your mind, but it needs to be out there so you don't get disorganized, miscombobulated, mixed up, forget steps, and then so you're not
Mhm.
repeating the cycle. That's a very good idea to have that vision board up there.
And then I also something else that I do with my son. I mean, ever since he was born, I've always called him Dr. Zion. And he doesn't have to grow up and be a doctor, but he does have to grow up and do something.
Right.
And everybody, so I don't let people play with my goals either. So anybody that's connected to me, they respect my son. They call him Dr. Zion. And I mean, everybody around me, we do the same thing. At the beginning of the year, I'm like, hey y'all, let's cook. Let's make our vision boards together. Let's I have a friend group right now. Every one Sunday out of the month, we get together and we just talk about some of the things that we're gonna do for the next month. The next time we see
Right.
each other, what things are we gonna accomplish? And so it's to the point where we're not competing. There's another hairstylist in the group too. We share our goals and we keep moving. There's some other people that does like resume building, and there's some nurses in the group and stuff like that too. And it gets tiring in business, and you get tired of trying to be so secretive, and that's what make you feel like you're the only one in your business. But if you find some group of people that you're able to bounce ideas off of, and you're able to, cry on their shoulder when business get hard, then that's, yeah, that's something that money can't buy.
Exactly, and that's so beautiful and close to the heart. And it's like you said, it's about a lot of, grief,
Yeah.
sorrow, and when people sit in that chair, they can just let themselves be them that they've bottled
Mhm.
up, whether sitting in the house or sitting at work. It's a type of relief that they
Mhm.
get from sitting in the chair. And I
Yeah.
guess that's where, like you say, the social worker, you're a social worker, you're a honorary psychiatrist, psychologist, a therapist,
Mhm.
because again, you make people feel comfortable so
Mhm.
that they are able to tell you how they feel or what's going on, and the embarrassment of alopecia, or anything like
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
So
It's a very rewarding, I'm very blessed to have found such a niche, and being able to really help women from all over the world. So it truly is a blessing. It really is. Especially when they ring the bell and they are comfortable sharing it with me and
yes.
sending me pictures and videos. I'm like, oh my God, like wow, so yeah.
Well, thank you again so much.
Thank
What
you.
is your tell me what your link is, where everybody can find you, your number.
Yes. So again, my name is Desiree Lusk. I'm the owner, one of the owners of DivineBeautyBar.com. We are a veteran-owned business. My partner is a Navy veteran, and Divine is DIVINE BeautyBar.com. And my phone number is 469-499-6200. And we work directly with the Department of Veteran Affairs, but we also accept TRICARE, U.S. Family Health Plan, Champ VA, Aetna, and Blue Cross Blue Shield as well.
All right. Thank you so much. And if today's conversation names something for you, follow Mama Never Told Me wherever you listen, tap the bell so new episodes find you gently, and share this one with friends who's stitching old skills into a new chapter. And we'll meet here next time. Again, thank you so much. And I cannot wait for you to come back down here. You know, you always welcome.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Yes, ma'am. You too.
Bye.
Exit.